Now I haven't dropped an auto pan for quite a while, like years. And it's one of those things that can be very comedic because you make an absolute mess. Standard on one of these, all the pan bolts are finger tight. I don't know if they still give you a cork gasket or not, but you used to have a cork gasket on these. You couldn't over tighten them, otherwise you'd squish them out. Or they'd vulcanise themselves to the base of the auto. And once it finally broke free, it would just go everywhere. Another thing I'm a fan of is Lucas transmission stop slip. I used to sort of think a lot of these things were like snake oil and they don't work. And years ago when I had my first VN, it's a Series 1 V6 auto. And in summer one day, I went to take off really fast in first gear, put my foot down and just free revved and that was it. And it was a hot day. So did a bit of Googling, whatnot. And apparently you can use this stop slip, so I'm like, oh, I'll give it a go. So I put a litre or two in. I don't know if I dropped any out or not. I can't recall. I was 18. This is first year apprentice, And I put it in, and look, it worked, and it never slipped ever again. Ever again. And I changed the oil again, so like it's sort of... I think if your bands are absolutely trashed, it won't fix it. But it increases your pressure and stuff like that in your training. We're starting to leak now. Now it's a bit sort of... It's red, which is good, but it's that sort of... You need to change me red. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, some of my cars, like I just put a bottle of it in before I put pans back on and stuff. Just because it doesn't hurt them. It's a bit of a preventative, same as their power steering. Stop leak, that stuff's amazing. That guarantees to stop any power steering leak that's a seal or an O-ring. Obviously it won't stop hoses. But it's just amazing stuff. And look, I'm all for replacing stuff when it's trashed. But if you've got a transmission that might flare occasionally between gears or whatnot, or even just as a... Oh, I'm dripping on myself. See? Comedic. If you've got a transmission that flares occasionally and whatnot, it's ideal. As a preventative, sure. And the other thing is too, they don't seem to make these drain catches big like they used to. Oh, actually I do have a big one somewhere. But what we used to do is we used to drop one into the pan, preferably at the front, and you would just let it sort of drain out a little bit, and then you'd do the balancing act trying to remove it, and that's when you usually spill the oil everywhere, all over yourself. Good for a laugh, getting laughed at. Since I made this channel, I just did it for a bit of fun. I'm not trying to make a living out of it. But I found a guy called the Commodore Man. And he reminds me of another version of myself. Loves the Commodore, loves a VN. Loves a V6 too, which is sort of, back when I was younger, it was, if you had a V6, it was frowned upon, You were the pauper of the community. And I've been watching some of his stuff, and quite enjoy it because it's all Commodore based. There's nothing sort of else on it. Oh, no, tell us. I have seen a couple of these other ones with Fords and stuff, but the majority of his stuff is Commodore, which I like. And that's sort of what I stick to. If I like other cars, I'll look on other channels and whatnot. But yeah, he's my sort of guy. Comedic. Oh no, I'm dripping all over the ground now too. On my VS that I have, my mum's old one, I actually took the pan off that and put a aftermarket pan on it with a drain on it. And it also converts it to a VT style pan, which is slightly larger. All right. That's what you're usually trying to achieve. I'm going to get some drips at the back, but if we get the bulk of it out the front here, that's all we need to do. So I'm just going to let that drain for a bit. And more rags. Transmission service is probably one of the hardest things you can do on the ground. Mess-wise, in the scheme of things, it's actually quite easy to do. But it's more the awkward factor. Because at the moment I don't want to get my hands in there and touch that. That's disgusting. So I'm just going to let it drain for a little bit before I attempt anything else. I was just looking too. I think I can actually bleed the brakes with the wheels on this thing, which is great. Some of the late model stuff, the nipples were in with the wheel, like facing the wheel, and you couldn't get your bleeder hose and stuff in there on. I'm scared. It's like in those spy movies where they have to go between the laser beams, otherwise they're going to get zapped. I'm pretty sure I actually have a big square drainer. This was the easiest one to get to. As a rule of thumb with my own stuff, I usually do a trans service every 20,000 Ks. Don't usually do the filter every time, because some of my other cars have got drains on the pan, so it's just easy. Drop the fluid, change the fluid, you put 4 or 5 litres in. It's cheap insurance. All this service, for the life of the car, BS is an absolute joke, and it was purely designed for I believe, the fleet buyers. If you provided a car with the cheapest service schedule, that would be the one that fleet buyers would buy. So they made everything. That's why service intervals get dragged out to 15, 20,000 Ks. Like, I don't think that's healthy for any engine. You see the oil that comes out of some of these new cars, and it's shocking. On my 100 series, the oil comes out of that every 5. I just use a mineral-based oil, and it is spotless. And I don't want to let it get dirty. And I'm like it with any car. Ever since I was an apprentice, I used to change my oil every 5,000 Ks. I ran it on premium unleaded. I pulled the heads off my VM with 300 and something thousand Ks on it, and there wasn't an ounce of carbon built up in the heads. Just gonna hold that up a little bit, drop this bolt out, and let the pan down. Hopefully it doesn't come down too much without making a cracking mess. And then I can slowly undo the back bolts, and as I'm undoing the back bolts, the pan is just going to drop lower and lower and lower to the point where I can support it with my hand, take the last bolt out, and carry it to safety. I don't know if you can see it there, slowly dropping down. And I've had these in the past where you've got it hanging on by a thread and you don't realise it's hanging on by a thread, and it lets go and it splashes down and it covers you in trans fluid. And it's disgusting. And it's even worse when it's stinking hot. I never understood why Holden didn't, still a bit of weight in it, didn't put drains in the bottom of their pans. I remember standing there before and your arms run out of power and you're like, oh God, please help me. All right, the money shot now. There you go, that's how you take a pan off without destroying yourself. Now I wasn't going to say anything until I did that because I didn't want to look like a goose. I've done it before. No one's perfect. And I would include it too, don't get me wrong. This is the other bit that'll get you. Is when you pop the filter out, it can hold a small amount of fluid in there, which can dribble out at a rapid rate and get you. I'm just cleaning the surface where the seal goes. Now the one that come off it, I think it was a cork gasket. Some cars have clips and things like that that hold the filter in place. These just have a rubber O-ring which goes up on the inside, and sometimes they're impossible to get in and out. Usually just grab the filter, give it a gentle wriggle and pull down at the same time, but try to brace yourself, because if you slip as it lets go, it can make a mess here. Like that. But now this hasn't been changed for a while. You can see, I'm not sure if you can see that I'm painting with the metal on it, or the band material. See how much cleaner it is like that? I've pulled these out before and they've had double O-rings on them where someone's not pulled the old O-ring out. As you can see, the bits of material on the filter itself. There's your little valve body and all that jazz. And we'll just go over here. Here's our drain pan. It is a cork gasket. It's actually not as bad as I thought. It's still pliable, definitely worn. And this is your magnet that catches all your clutch material. So it definitely needed to be done. Alright, first things first would be to, this magnet is just a little sheet magnet. Oh, it's really stuck there. There we go. Hasn't been moved for a long time. Alright. Get that wipe down. You can see how much stuff actually comes off the magnet. Definitely needed to be done. Now, if you can get this cork off in one go without it breaking, you're doing all right. Because normally they do that. And then you got to sit there. The best way to get it clean is to buff it. But you want to sort of get all the gasket off and just have some of the residual left, just so you can give it a quick hit with the wire wheel or a wire brush, just something to get that build up of cork gasket off, because it just hangs around and makes a mess. Also, you want it to seal. You don't want to put this back together and then have it leaking again, that's for sure. So we'll just get the bulk of the old oil out with an old rag. Couldn't tell you how many of these I've done over the years, but it's been a long time since I've done one. Now these can be very sharp too, so watch your fingers being pressed tin. Try and avoid sliding your fingers around certain parts, especially this little lip here and things like that, without the safety of a rag or something. Probably would have put a different pan on this if I'd pre-planned this change, but to do 20,000 Ks in this thing's going to take a long time. Now I'll just give you an idea of what that is, all the junk that you do not want on there. So I'm just going to quickly wire buff this and I'll be back. Rightio. Go a quick hit with the wire wheel. Got all the old gasket off. Don't really use any sealants on these, even though, now that I think about it, on some of the cork gaskets we use on rocket covers and stuff, you can use that Protex non-hardening aviation sealant, that sort of stuff. But look, realistically, you put it on, give it a hand tighten, give it a little bit more, run it, get it hot, then check it again, and just periodically check it when you're over it. Put the magnet back in. Let me see if I've got any Lucas. I do have Lucas. So what I do before I put it in, I usually submerge it in some hot water, let it soften right up so you can just pour it in. It makes it easy down a dipstick hole. But what I'll do is I'll put the full 750 mils or a litre, whatever it is, in here, and then stick it up. But what we need to do first is on the new filter, you'll have this little seal, this O-ring. We need to get the old one out. So I'll see if I can set you up to look at it. Now you can see that little orange thing just up in there. That's that bad boy we need. At the same time, you don't want to hurt anything, but from memory, you can just, if you get a screwdriver on it, because you don't want to hurt that surface. Alright, so we want to get in here. Just like that. Without hurting the surface, you sort of want to get your pick into the rubber and then pull it down without scoring the surface, otherwise the oil can potentially leak between the two. So then we'll get our new filter and some petroleum jelly. Give it a bit of a. She's in. And that'll be enough to hold that in place. Now we'll give another wipe around here. I've just noticed, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, maybe you can. A dark spot just here. It feels a bit average, so what I'm going to do is get some light emery. Now if your emery's too hectic, like a new piece of emery paper, you can get a bit of lubricant and hit it on just a piece of steel. And what that does is it dulls the surface. So if you've got it on a surface that you don't wish to give it heaps on, it won't, and in that way just a little bit of lubricant just so it's not dry, just a gentle scuff. That's all you need to take it off. Usually doesn't affect the transmission side, usually it's only just the pan side. Just a little bit, just so you don't feel it anymore. That was all there was really. Obviously there's still got to be a mark there, but it's not, definitely not as bad as it was. Alright, give it another wipe, and then what I'm going to do is place the gasket on the pan, and you put a bolt through each end of the pan and you just lift it up. Just pulled the Lucas out of the warm water. Usually got a bit of time. but I like to get it done out of the way because it's still quite thick, as you can see. Because if you don't, you'll get most of it out and then it'll line the inside of the bottle. You'll end up with heaps still in the bottle. All right, now the tricky bit now without the gasket falling in and ruining your day. I've done a really good job of not doing that. Get the gasket in the right way. Now I need 2 screws, bolts, whatever you want to call them. I've been in the trade for over 20 years and I still call nuts, bolts, screws, bolts, nuts, screws. Now what I usually do is just put one sort of through there and one through there. But I have to carry it over there and you have to see me, so I'm going to go set the camera up over there and then I'll walk over. I've got my 2 screws in. Fingers crossed I've got the pan the right way. You don't want to catch the gasket or anything, but usually by putting those 2 bolts in, it'll hold the gasket in place. And because it's spaced far enough apart, if one of it does sort of fall in a bit, you can get a screwdriver and just sort of pull it back over. And then you just get 2 more. Give them a wipe. And sort of go the same, bit opposite, sort of in between, find the hole, make sure you're going through the hole of the gasket. This side, same deal, hole of the gasket, because the last thing you want to do is miss the hole, put it all together, fill it up and just have it pour out all over the floor. 2 more, give them a wipe. Corner one. One. And I've had some mishaps over the years forgetting these. One falling in a bees. Usually it's the rubber O-ring type ones that's sort of a bit hard. I think it was the Fords that were a bit notorious for that. Once you've got the majority in, you can sort of just go next to each other. You don't have to go opposites anymore. It's more just to keep the gasket in place while you're setting it up. But as long as you can see, the bolt's going through the hole. And look, I'm not perfect. This is just the way I do it. If you've got a better way, grouse. And I think we used to do it with the old windy ratchet, well not ratchet, windy spanner or whatever you want to call it. And that was really good way of easing it down. But that's just the way I was taught, this is how we did it. Things have changed, there's new tools. You know, you could zap most of them off with a rattle gun, but I'm trying to make it as real as possible, apart from the fact that I can fill it up with a 20-litre container, which makes it a lot easier. But I've been there on the ground before on a weekend. I've done engines in the driveway, gearboxes in the driveway. At my mum's house, we changed the cam on my mate's V6 ute. And that was outside in the driveway, there was no shed. We'd never had a shed to work in. We changed the cam, finished at about 2 o'clock in the morning, took it for a wrap up the street. Mum wasn't impressed. That was fun. Great, no bolts left over. Now all I'm going to do is just twist them all up by hand. Because it's cork, you do not want to over tighten these at all. So you just push it up a little bit, just sort of seat it, push the other side up. Seat it, and then do the same with the rest. And this is where that windy thing would have come in handy, doing all these up. This is pre-rattle gun. This is back before you had a rattle gun license, the mechanics version of a pen license. We weren't allowed to use little rattle guns to nip up because being an apprentice, you'd wrap this up and drive it straight into the aluminium, strip it out. Upsetting everyone in the workplace. It's funny when you do these things, the memories it brings back of stuff ups you've had, stuff ups other people have had. Oh, I could probably move this out of the way now. Give the floor a wipe. Because I did get a little bit on the floor. Now the hard bit is realising how much you've sort of got to put back in. So I usually start with 3 litres, start it up, check it, and then usually panic and run to the oil pump, container, whatever you're running. Frantically start filling it up. But also too with these, you can't fill them too quickly, otherwise it comes out of the tube. Sometimes you've got to turn the car off, fill it up a bit, then start it again. You don't want it to run dry. Great. Now, the tedious process of just sort of quarter turning the whole lot. You feel a tiny little bit of load on them. But you don't want to go silly. And then, if you notice, I always hold these like this because it gives you a really good feel and you're not going to over leverage and tighten the junk out of it, you know? It may look like I'm doing them up quite tight, but I'm not. It's just a feel thing. There's probably a procedure tension specification for these. All right, that'll feel really good. Time to give it start with a quick wipe down. Then we'll hit the deck, put a few litres in, start it up, check it, and then we're done. All right. Now the whole purpose of what started this video is getting the guard covers on. That's all I wanted to do. Is do all this work just to get the guard covers on. Now I'm using a Penrite ATF LV. It's backwards compatible with DX3. which is great. Better. All right, thumb over it. Drop down. Start her up, see what happens. Will she start? Another 10 pumps or so. Yeah, I know some of you at home will be going, you need to put it in drive and get it pumping through first. Well aware of that. I just wanted to make sure that there was enough on the dipstick before I even did that. I'm just going to get the wheels off the ground so I can put it in drive. If you don't have the facilities to be able to do that, put enough in so it reads on the dipstick, sit in the car, put it in drive, put it in reverse, put it in drive, and that'll sort of get the pump going. Then just go for a drive at the end of the street, come back, check it. If it's low, put a bit more in. If it's good, go for a drive, get up to 80 Ks, 100 Ks, so on, and then come back and check it. Oh, that's fun. Need to go down because I can't fit the... Now the other tricky thing is, you can get a false reading on both sides. Usually try and go with the one that is higher. You can always put more in, it's really hard to take it out. At the moment I'm halfway up. I reckon I'll leave that. We'll keep it running. I'll put it up in the air, have a look underneath, check for leaks, bring it back down, check it again, turn it off, and we're done. All nice and shiny now. Now it's just in neutral, it's not actually in drive or anything like that. Keep in mind the hot exhaust. I'll just give it another tweak, see how it feels. It's amazing just by adding a little bit of heat into it. And look, you don't want to over tighten these because if you do strip them, you have to put a helicoil in it. And it's an absolute nightmare. So I'll just keep checking that. Looks good. I'm happy. Definitely got some heat into it now. I can feel the fan blowing off the radiator. It's quite warm. And we need more, which is great. It's amazing how just running it for another couple of minutes gets all the residual off the dipstick. And in circumstances like this, 10 pump intervals, usually enough to sort of work out where it's at. When it comes to engines, I'm usually a mineral oil man unless it's a high performance engine. With trannies and stuff like that, if you can run full synthetic every time. I know some of you might be like, oh, why not run full synthetic in the engine all the time? Look, I believe that a good mineral oil changed every 5,000 Ks is fine, it's optimal. If it can handle the high temperatures of a turbo on a diesel motor, a naturally aspirated 5 litre, 6 cylinder, whatever, no dramas. Transmission on the other hand, they're the same sort of in every car. They can, if you're towing or giving it a hard time, or people doing burnouts and stuff like that, it's just, I just think it's a different kettle of fish. People might have differing opinions, that's fine. It's just how I think, and also too, it's the longer service interval with a transmission. So a full synthetic for 20,000 Ks is nothing really, especially when you're only topping it up with 3, 4, 5 litres. When you're talking an engine that can hold anywhere between 6 and 12 litres, that's a massive difference between a mineral oil and a full synthetic oil. Especially if it's, $10 a litre to $20 a litre. I don't know if you can notice the indicator's still missing out of there. I've scrounged a replacement from outside, and on another little video, we'll just do a quick clean up, tidy up, wash it, see if it's suitable as a replacement. Or I could buy some new ones off eBay. But if you can recycle old bits that are still just as good, why not? Yeah, I think that's a good level at the moment, so I reckon I'll leave that till next time I drive it, do a road test and then check it once I've done that, but it looks good to me. I guess that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Let's see what we do next time.